Hey there. Imagine a drug so effective at weight loss that it's being called liquid gold. A drug that's transforming health, crashing snack food stocks, and even changing how we think about addiction. Celebrities are whispering about it. Doctors can't keep up with the demand. And people are literally flying to other countries just to get their hands on it. But then you see the price tag, $1,000 a month in the United States. Meanwhile, and this is the part that'll make your jaw drop, the exact same pen costs about $59 in Germany, or $155 in Canada. Same drug, same company, same little injection pen, just a totally different price depending on where you happen to live. So here's the question that should be keeping you up at night. How can a drug that costs less than $5 to manufacture be sold for a 20,000% markup? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on what I'm calling the Ozempic Economy. Why the US healthcare system is almost designed to keep prices like this astronomically high, and how a clever rebranding move called Wegovy didn't just change the game. It rewrote the rules entirely. Let's get into it. To understand why this drug is worth so much to so many people, we first need to understand what it actually does. Because honestly, it's kind of fascinating. The active ingredient is called Semaglutide. And at its core, it does something deceptively simple. It mimics a hormone in your body called GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1. This hormone is released naturally after you eat, and its job is to travel to your brain and basically say, hey, we're full. You can stop now. Semaglutide mimics that signal, but it sticks around way longer than the natural hormone does. So instead of feeling full for an hour after a meal, patients on this drug report feeling less hungry throughout the entire day. Some describe it as the noise in their head around food, that constant mental chatter of what's for lunch, what's for dinner, I kind of want a snack. Just going quiet. For people with type 2 diabetes, this is a lifesaver. Ozempic was originally approved in 2017 specifically to help manage blood sugar levels, and it worked incredibly well. But then something unexpected happened. Patients started losing significant weight. Not a little. We're talking 10, 15, sometimes over 20% of their body weight in clinical trials. Doctors noticed, patients noticed, and word got out fast. People without diabetes started asking their doctors for it. Then celebrities reportedly started using it. Then the internet exploded. Suddenly, a quiet diabetes medication had become the most talked about drug on the planet, with massive off-label use, meaning people using it for a purpose it wasn't officially approved for, leading to global shortages. Pharmacies ran out. Diabetic patients who needed it for blood sugar control couldn't get it because demand had completely outpaced supply. A diabetes drug had accidentally become the world's most sought-after weight loss tool. And that accident, worth tens of billions of dollars. Okay, so the drug is effective. Wildly effective. But does that justify a $1,000 monthly price tag? Let's look at the math. Researchers at Yale and Harvard actually studied this. They found that semaglutide could theoretically be manufactured for somewhere between $0.89 and $4.73 per month. So when you're paying $1,000, or your insurance is, the markup isn't 10x or even 100x. It's closer to 20,000%. Now, pharmaceutical companies will tell you that the price reflects the cost of research and development. The billions spent on clinical trials, failed experiments, regulatory approval. And look, that argument has some merit. Drug development is genuinely expensive and risky, but it doesn't fully explain why Americans pay so much more than every other developed country for the exact same product. To understand that, you need to meet the middlemen. Enter Pharmacy Benefit Managers, or PBMs. PBMs are companies that sit between drug manufacturers, insurance companies, and pharmacies. Their official job is to negotiate drug prices on behalf of insurers, theoretically to lower costs. But here's the catch. And this is the part that sounds almost too cynical to be true. PBMs earn rebates based on the list price of a drug. The higher the list price, the bigger the rebate they can negotiate, and the more money they make. So think about that for a second. The people whose job it is to lower drug prices actually have a financial incentive to keep list prices high. It's what economists call a perverse incentive. A system where doing the thing that's bad for consumers is actually what makes the middlemen rich. And drug manufacturers play along because, in exchange for those big rebates, PBMs put their drugs on the preferred list that insurance companies cover. It's a system that benefits everyone except the patient. Now, add to this the fact that the United States, unlike virtually every other developed country, has no government body that caps drug prices. In Germany, Australia, the UK, governments negotiate directly with pharmaceutical companies and set price ceilings. If a company doesn't agree, their drug simply doesn't get sold there. In America, no such system exists. Drug companies can charge essentially whatever the market will bear. And in a market shaped by PBM rebate games and opaque insurance negotiations, what the market bears ends up being $1,000 a month for a drug that costs $5 to make. So, we've established that Ozempic is a miracle drug caught in a broken pricing system. But then Novo Nordisk, the Danish company that makes it, did something that was either brilliant strategy or a masterclass in corporate audacity, depending on how you look at it. They made the exact same drug and gave it a new name. Meet Wegovy. Wegovy has the same active ingredient as Ozempic, semaglutide. The key difference is a slightly higher maximum dose, 2.4 milligrams versus Ozempic's 2.0 millimoles. But crucially, it was submitted to the FDA for a different approval, not for diabetes, but specifically for chronic weight management in people with obesity. And that one distinction? It changed everything. By getting Wegovy approved as a weight loss drug, Novo Nordisk didn't just expand their market, they unlocked it. Suddenly, instead of targeting the roughly 37 million Americans with diabetes, they were targeting over 100 million Americans classified as obese or overweight. A market that is, in many ways, almost impossible to fully satisfy. But here's where the insurance twist comes in, and it's genuinely maddening. Most insurance plans in the US do cover Ozempic, because it's for diabetes, a recognized medical condition with serious health consequences. But Wegovy, even though it's basically the same drug, is often excluded from coverage because insurance companies have historically treated obesity as a lifestyle issue rather than a chronic disease. So you end up in this bizarre situation. If you're diabetic, insurance might cover your $1,000 month semaglutide. But if you're obese, which carries its own serious health risks, including heart disease, joint problems, sleep apnea, you might be forced to pay the full $1,300 plus list price for Wegovy entirely out of pocket. Same molecule, same manufacturer. Wildly different financial reality depending on which box a doctor checks on your prescription form. For Novo Nordisk, though, the Wegovy launch was a smashing success. The company's market cap surged so dramatically that at one point in 2023, Novo Nordisk briefly became the most valuable company in Europe, worth more than the entire GDP of Denmark, the country it's headquartered in. That's the scale of money we're talking about here. So where does all of this go from here? Is $1,000 a month just the permanent reality for Americans who want access to this drug? Maybe not. And there are two big forces pushing toward change. The first is a direct move from Novo Nordisk itself. The company has announced that starting January 1st, 2027, they will lower the list price of both Ozempic and Wegovy to $675 per month. That's still a lot of money. That's still a markup of thousands of % over manufacturing cost. But it's a meaningful reduction, and it likely reflects the pressure they're feeling from the second force, competition. Because semaglutide is approaching a patent cliff, As of around March 2026, semaglutide's patent is beginning to expire in certain markets, including India, which opens the door for generic manufacturers to produce their own versions at a fraction of the cost. As generics enter global markets, the price pressure on Novo Nordisk will only increase. Analysts predict that within a few years, generic semaglutide could potentially be available for tens of dollars per month rather than hundreds, dramatically changing who can access this drug. There are also new GLP-1 competitors entering the space, from Eli Lilly and others, which is already forcing Novo Nordisk to rethink its pricing strategy. The Ozempic economy, in other words, may be nearing the end of its most extreme chapter. But the story it tells about how American drug pricing works, that story isn't going away anytime soon. At the end of the day, Ozempic isn't just a medical breakthrough. It's a mirror, reflecting just how broken the US pharmaceutical system really is. It's a world where the price you pay for medicine depends less on what it costs to make, and more on your insurance plan, your diagnosis code, and a web of middlemen whose incentives are fundamentally misaligned with your health. A drug that could cost $5 to manufacture costs $1,000 to buy. Not because of science, not because of innovation, but because of system design, because of who sits between the factory and the pharmacy. Because of a country that, uniquely among wealthy nations, decided that life-saving drugs should be priced by the free market. And the Wegovy story shows that even within that broken system, companies are incredibly creative at finding new ways to extract maximum value, sometimes just by changing a label. So here's what I want to leave you with. What do you think? Is a life-saving drug worth $1,000 a month? Is this just the cost of innovation, or is the system quite literally making the rich richer on the backs of sick people? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and honestly, this is one of those topics where I genuinely want to know where you stand. If you found this video useful, hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find this content. And if you want to keep pulling back the curtain on how money and systems really work, subscribe. We do this every week. I'll see you in the next one.